It's no secret that a lot of people like to compare Valorant to Counter-Strike, and rightfully so, that's literally what the game was based on. But one of the biggest comparisons that you'll hear from avid Counter-Strike players has to deal with the way that Valorant handles gun accuracy, specifically how it handles bullet spread when spraying. If you guys don't know, in Counter-Strike, when you spray guns like the AK-47, that gun is going to have a fixed spray pattern where with enough practice, you can actually control all of your bullets and have them land in pretty much the same spot. Valorant is different in this regard, where actually even your first bullet out of the gun might not land exactly where you're aiming. Even couple this with the fact that when you spray, the more bullets fired, the more random your spray will be. This can make a massive difference when playing the game. Now, I'm not here to argue whether having fixed spray patterns for guns is better or worse. I'm sure everyone in the comments is going to pick whatever team they're on, but what I do want to talk about is why Riot decided to go a different direction with these guns and what it actually means for us as players. So the first thing to keep in mind with recoil control in Valorant is how a lot of players react to it. Many people get upset with there being no spray patterns in the game and sort of believe that this just means that taking gunfights is largely RNG. What they miss though is that just because something is RNG doesn't mean that we can't adapt to it. This is something that you need to understand if you want to be good at any video game too, it's not just Valorant. And it's important to keep in mind that not all of the mechanics in any game are always going to be your favorite, but what matters is how you adapt to it. For example, we could spend all day complaining about how jet opping is overpowered, however that's not going to make it any less overpowered. Just as us complaining about the RNG in our sprays isn't going to make there be any less RNG, at least in the short run. Maybe if we complain enough, the devs will change it, but honestly I wouldn't hold your breath on this one. No, it's really about how you adapt to the mechanics, and this is what in the end will show who the best players are. Take a look at this tweet from Shroud from over a year ago, and no, I'm not going to act like this is a new topic, but the reason that I wanted to make this video is because I hear a lot of people talk about this stuff still today as if they don't understand it. The main thing that I want to highlight is Shroud's comment about the best aimer being the one who can adapt his recoil from any range and situation. He's not saying that the best aimer is the one who can learn to control his spray the best. That's actually the opposite of what he is saying if you look at his comment about muscle memory. No, I even heard him talk about this recently on stream, so take a listen.
He's talking about spray control. I know. I like how this game does their spray control. I like it. This game is more about steady taps and steady bursts. The second you've decided to spray, you've already lost. I love that. It's not RNG. It's only RNG if you force it to be RNG. Do you not understand the mental warfare of having to burst tap, or when to spray and when to let go and when to reset? And, you know, that's the skill of this game. The skill of this game isn't holding mouse 1. No. The skill of this game is having that mental fortitude to know when to tap, when to burst, when to spray, and then when to reset.
Shroud is someone who thinks that his greatest strength is being able to pick up new games and be good at them, and part of the reason he's so good at this, I believe, is because of his capability to recognize the mechanics in the game and then how they're supposed to be applied. What he's saying here specifically is that because of the randomness in Valorant sprays, you should be very intentional with how you choose to fire off your shots. Do you want to spray? Do you want to burst? Do you want to tap? You shouldn't be able to just commit to a spray like you can in Call of Duty and know that if you whiff, you'll be able to quickly adjust and be able to kill your enemies. No, you should go into a spray knowing that is the best decision for you to spray in that moment. So basically, we know a few things. The first one is that the more bullets that we fire, the more RNG that is introduced. The second is that RNG is bad for players. This is something that we commonly know. Oh, by the way, it's not actually bad for competitive games themselves. There's reasons why every game has some elements of RNG, but for the player themselves, the more RNG means the less that you have control over, which is bad for you when you're looking to play the game to the best of your abilities. But the third thing that we know is that the less bullets that we shoot, the less RNG that there is. So what this means is that if we want to perform to the best of our abilities, it's going to be a lot better for us to shoot as few bullets as possible during the gunfight as to keep the element of RNG as low as possible. I know controlling RNG is a huge factor in many of card games, for example. Card games are obviously something that it feels like would have an incredible amount of RNG. If you have a deck of 30 cards, that means that the card that you need could literally be anywhere in the deck. Let's say there is a 1 in 30 chance of you drawing your card. Those odds don't really sound great, right? Well, actually, a way that a player will reduce these odds is by having multiple of the same card in their deck. So now, let's say that you have 3 of the same card in your deck, your odds of drawing that card go from being 1 in 30 to 1 in 10. That's a lot better, right? If you don't play card games, by the way, you may be surprised to hear that for many games, there's actually not a maximum amount of cards that a deck can have in it. So if you want, you can have a deck that has 400 cards in it. However, the reason you want to keep your deck as small as possible is because if you have 400 cards, that 1 in 10 chance of you drawing the card that you wanted now turns into a 1 in 133.3 chance. Now, the reason I went on this whole trip to explain to you how card games work is because I want you to understand that there are plenty of games that are all about adapting to RNG in the game, and that's how you become good at them. Games like Auto Battlers, Magic the Gathering, or even poker and blackjack. They're literally all about making the most of the RNG that you are given. There is RNG in Valorant, and sometimes your bullets are going to deviate from where you're aiming, and sometimes you're going to get classic right-clicked from a mile away. But it's all about taking the proper measures to ensure that this happens as infrequently as possible. Another thing that this plays into actually that you might compare this to is your gun's first shot accuracy. This is a commonly discussed topic for the Phantom versus Vandal debate because if you look at the stats, the Phantom actually is slightly more accurate than the Vandal is at range. When people say that, what they are referring to is the weapon's first shot accuracy. If you compare the Vandal to the Phantom will more consistently be close to where you're actually aiming than the Vandal. Compare this to a gun like the Guardian, for example, where your bullets will almost always land where you're aiming due to the low bullet spread. All guns in the game have different bullet spreads, but honestly this video isn't really about that, it's more about how we can use that information to our advantage. So for example, if a gun like the Vandal tends to be fairly inaccurate at long ranges, despite the fact that it is a one hit to the head, it might be a good idea to either choose to take a closer range engagement as to reduce the RNG, or to utilize ADS a bit more because this will tighten the spread on your bullets. Notice how we started with the problem, that problem being that the Vandal's first shot accuracy is not all that great, and we searched for a way to deal with that. Obviously, we can't make the first shot accuracy better, but by choosing how we take our gunfights, it makes it a lot more manageable. Now, if we're say a bronze player or a YouTube commenter, then we could just die in a long range engagement and then blame the game, but that actually doesn't fix anything. We didn't learn anything from that engagement, and it's likely going to happen again. But if instead we decide to take a long-range engagement with the Vandal and our crosshair is directly on the player's head and we still somehow manage to miss the shot, if instead we take this situation and say, man, that first shot accuracy on the Vandal kind of sucks. I'm not going to duel players from that range anymore, I got kind of screwed. We start coming up with solutions for the problem that we have. Sometimes I hate making videos like this because I know that there's one kid in the audience who's going to be like, it's not a solution, it's a workaround. Like, call it whatever you want, but this is how you stop dying to RNG so much. Also, don't ask me why the Vandal's first shot accuracy is actually worse than the Phantom's when the Vandal statistically does more damage from a range. Honestly, you'd think it would be the other way around, but this is just the way that the devs intended, I guess. So not only is the Phantom better up close, but in a way, it's also better from a distance. I don't know, man. The point is, what we can learn from the game having this sort of first shot inaccuracy is that the game wants to have some sort of element to punish you for taking these sort of long-range duels. The further away you are from your target, the more RNG that is introduced. So how does this affect the game? Well, something else this means is that the guns like the Operator, Marshal, and Guardian are going to be a lot stronger from a range because other guns are weaker. Because these guns are laser accurate even from range, this means that when you're using them, it's actually a great idea to stand as far away from your target as possible. Notice how all of these things are mental decisions that help to put you in the optimal situations to win the game. These are all just stats and mechanics and how players may choose to interpret how they should impact the game. To connect this back to why do the random spray patterns exist though? The answer is because the Valorant devs want it to be punishing when you full commit to sprays. I'm not a game designer and I don't work for Riot, so I can't tell you what their reasoning they decided to go with this design choice is. A lot of players believe that this makes the game easier since the sprays can't be mastered, it leaves less for the players to be exceptional at. And I think this is a little silly. You could still be pretty good at controlling sprays in Valorant, and honestly the community is only just beginning to learn the game. Who knows, maybe because of the gun sway, exceptional recoil is still achievable. But overall, it's just important to remember that spraying in Valorant is intended to be bad. It is meant to be dangerous to full commit to gunfights, and many players need to learn this. Take a look at this round from one of the VOD reviews we did on the website, and I just want to point out this player's decision to spray. This particular player is pretty low rank, and obviously this isn't an example of perfect spray control, but something I want to comment on is that spraying shouldn't be just a reaction to missing. Okay, your ulti coming in here again. Still no comms. You don't even ping or anything. You're gonna go right behind this jet. Didn't use your teleport, so now you don't have a getaway anymore, right? And notice how you just once again commit to the full spray right here. I don't know how many bullets that was. Let's check. Come out of the ulti. You have 30 bullets. You fire 18 bullets at this jet. Yeah, that is a lot of time for her to be Odining you. Against a better player, you're not going to get 18 bullets off because they're going to kill you. But against these players, you don't need to get 18 bullets off because you can just take your time, right? And you notice how long it took her to kill you with an Odin? Of all guns, this is the easiest to control weapon in the game. You ADS with that thing, it's like laser accurate. So all she had to do was just ADS and like shoot you a couple times, right? Because of the RNG in the game, if you start your spray from a position where you are missing, and then you try to correct that spray, it's going to result in a situation very similar to this one. Because there is RNG involved, and with every single bullet that is fired, it makes it more and more difficult to land your next bullet. So if you use spraying as a reaction to missing your first bullets, you're actually doing it wrong, and this is when you will get punished. Accuracy above all is the most important thing in Valorant, and that's why what you want to do is be more patient and start your spray when you are actually aiming on your target and using your spray as a tool to kill your enemies as quickly as possible, rather than using spraying as a crutch. Anyway, I'm not an expert on CSGO spray patterns or anything, this is just how I interpret that the game is meant to be played. If you watch professional Valorant, it's a lot more common to see players taking advantage of burst fires or tap firing, and not only that, but it's also a lot more common for players to use the Phantom and take closer range engagements due to the inaccuracy on the Vandal. If you watch any pro play, the adjustment that these players make because of these mechanics are there. You just have to look into why they play the way that they do a bit more to notice them. If you guys are interested in checking out the full VOD review from that Yoru game, by the way, there are a couple of other examples in which that player misuses the gun mechanics in the game. We've been uploading a bunch of VOD reviews just like this one to the website recently, so I really recommend that you check them out. Overall though, I hope this was helpful and insightful for you guys in some way. Spraying in Valorant is bad, and I'm not saying that it's a bad design or bad for the game, but it's bad to do. It introduces quite a bit of RNG into the game, and it also leaves the player very stationary while doing it. If there's one thing that you took away from this video, it's that you should be spraying less and burst firing a lot more. That's going to do it for me today though. My name is King, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.